An Australian family's holiday trip to Pakistan has ended in a fatal tragedy. This happened after a 9-year-old was killed during a police operation following an armed robbery, reportedly. The incident occurred last week in Pakistan's Punjab province, where the Perth-based family was visiting a relative and traveling in a rental car when they were held at gunpoint by robbers, allegedly. And according to the Punjab police, reportedly, officers from the Crime Control Department intervened after the family was taken hostage. And during the encounter, the suspects opened fire at the police, triggering an exchange of gunfire. Authorities reportedly say in the chaos that followed, an officer mistakenly believed the suspects were attempting to escape in the family's vehicle and opened fire on it. And that decision proved fatal, leading to the deaths of this 9-year-old girl and injuries to her father and brother, reportedly. Her mother survived unharmed. The officer responsible has since been suspended, arrested, and produced before a court, reportedly. He was remanded to judicial custody. His weapon and shell casings have also been sent for forensic analysis. The Australian Prime Minister, meanwhile, has called for a transparent and full investigation into the incident.
And these circumstances do need to be examined. They need to be examined in a transparent way so that everyone can know, the family most importantly, but others as well. And Australia expects there to be transparency and a proper investigation of these circumstances.
Meanwhile, Pakistani authorities promised a thorough and impartial probe into the fatal shooting. And going back to what things have been looking like between Washington and Tehran and the possible peace agreement, one name reportedly emerging from behind the scenes and dominating headlines as perhaps the most powerful voice shaping Iran's strategy right now. Ahmed Vahidi. According to a Wall Street Journal report, the veteran commander of Iran's IRGC repeatedly has pushed for confrontation over compromise, and reportedly has become a dominant force in Iran's decision-making apparatus. Citing Iranian and Arab officials, the Wall Street Journal reported that Vahidi backed Iran's recent ballistic missile attacks on Israel, which Tehran, remember, described as retaliation for an Israeli attack on Hezbollah's headquarters in southern Beirut. The report says Vahidi also pressed Iran's negotiators to reject concessions to Washington, arguing that Tehran held the stronger hand. And the report claims Vahidi frequently overruled the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, and the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, as well, and insisted that Iran first restore its military deterrence after months of conflict and attacks. Not just that, the report further states that Vahidi linked an end to Iran's war with the cessation of Israel's military campaign against Hezbollah in Lebanon, a move that reportedly increased American fears that renewed Israeli operations could derail negotiations. Wahidi's influence basically stemming from decades inside Iran's security establishment. Here's what's known about him. A founding member of the IRGC in 1979, he took charge of its intelligence arm in his early 20s. And later helped create the elite Quds Force, the organization responsible for directing and supporting Iran-backed militias overseas. He also served as Iran's defense minister and interior minister during the 2010s. And as a former Quds Force chief, he reportedly played a major role in transforming Hezbollah into Lebanon's most formidable armed group. Vahidi, along with the Iranian parliament speaker, are emerging as the public faces of Iran's post-Khamenei power structure. Ghalibaf, remember, has become a central negotiator in the current talks and reportedly spearheaded both Iran's war efforts and also the high-stakes diplomacy that led to the agreement to halt the hostilities. While in contrast, Iran's foreign minister is facing mounting political pressure. Despite remaining Iran's top diplomat, he has reportedly come under intense criticism from the hardline factions, with the protests and accusations of betrayal over negotiations and the ceasefire efforts involving the United States. If the West Asia situation had to be described in 2 words right now, uneasy, calm. There is calm as of now because the US and Iran have agreed to halt the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, Trump says the US and Iran have reached a tentative peace deal and the signing will be taking place on Friday. It's uneasy because the situation continues to remain precarious, to say the least. So will the calm last, or is the calm before another storm that could drag the region back towards volatility and despair? And the answer hinges on crucial questions that could turn the US-Iran peace deal into ashes. It's an extremely fine line separating the two right now. And before we get to that, here's what you need to know right now. US and Iranian officials say they have reached an agreement to end the war. In fact, US President Donald Trump said the deal includes reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and he has ordered the end of the US blockade of Iranian ports. An MOU is set to be signed on Friday in Switzerland. Over the next few days, West Asia and the world will be watching very closely for any signs that this is temporary relief and uneasy calm before a dangerous storm. First, all eyes will be on Benjamin Netanyahu. Will the Israeli Prime Minister jeopardize the deal? You see, this is a personal test for the Israeli leader, and for him, his political survival depends on the war and the situation overall, with just months to go for the elections in Israel. So as of now, these developments are bound to cause heartburn for the Israeli leader. Let's also tell you more about what's been happening between Donald Trump and Netanyahu. During a wide-ranging interview with the New York Times, Trump has already claimed Netanyahu almost derailed the US-Iran peace talks, calling him a very difficult guy, quote unquote. Trump also asserting that American diplomacy is the only thing securing Israel's survival against its chief regional adversary. And the remarks coming following the announcement of the deal, which also brings us to the Lebanon question. Remember, Lebanon has been a sticking point in the negotiations, a major one, with Iran making a halt to Israeli attacks on Hezbollah a key point of any deal. And Israel reportedly says it will not withdraw from Lebanese territory it has seized and will retaliate if Iran attacks it due to what happens in Lebanon. So a big, bold question mark also remaining over what happens to Iran's nuclear program. Wasn't that among Trump's main goals, among the reasons why this war started in the first place, and the turbulence that followed? Iran and America have both reportedly said negotiations on Iran's nuclear program, a key area of dispute, would take place over 60 days following the signing of the preliminary deal that they have announced to end the war. Both sides have reportedly said that Iran agrees that it will neither produce nor acquire nuclear weapons. But remember, that is a promise that Iran has been making repeatedly for decades. A senior Iranian official has told Reuters that pending a final agreement, Iran would freeze its nuclear activity and refrain from further uranium enrichment or the expansion of nuclear facilities. According to the official, reportedly, the US has agreed that Iran could dilute its stockpile of highly enriched uranium inside Iran under a future comprehensive agreement. And Trump also said, remember, on Saturday earlier, that there was no urgency to extract Iran's stockpile of nuclear material and that the US would retrieve it when all is calm. He also said there would be a strong inspections regime for Iran under any deal. But then what would that look like? There are no specifics as of now. So that's another essential aspect here on which a lot depends. Also, the other key question, how will the deal affect sanctions on Iran? And what about the broader financial impact for Tehran? A lot hinging on how the deal essentially will come into force and what things would look like at the Strait of Hormuz as well. Iran and the US have both said the Strait of Hormuz would start to reopen and the US blockade on Iranian ports start to lift as soon as the MOU is signed. Trump said the Strait of Hormuz would be reopened on Friday and he had ordered the lifting of the blockade on Iranian ports. A senior Iranian official also reportedly saying the strait would be reopened to all commercial vessels once the MOU was signed. So all eyes will be on the Hormuz Strait situation, which remains integral. But that also brings us to the most fundamental question here, with both sides basically saying negotiations on the more difficult further areas of dispute, like Iran's nuclear issue, the US sanctions on Iran, will be conducted over the following 60 days. What will the next 2 months look like for West Asia? Donald Trump has described it as a great deal to end the war with Iran. But how great it really is, will it stand the test of time, are all in the unknown territory right now. And if there is one thing that West Asia cannot afford more of right now, after all that it has endured, it is more uncertainty. Even a single move right now could lead to a collapse of this fragile calm. When we think of apples, we perhaps think of the snow-covered areas of Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, for example, not the scorching heat of Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh, right? But a local farmer has turned that assumption on its head and achieved what many considered impossible so far. WION's correspondent, Sri Charan, who is tracking this story very closely, shared details on how the Andhra farmer scripted history. Anantapur records summer temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius. It receives some of the lowest rainfall in peninsular India. Yet, in this village, 46-year-old farmer N.V. Ramana Reddy has successfully grown a bumper crop of bright red apples. And this achievement is being seen as the first commercially viable apple cultivation project in Andhra Pradesh and possibly in all of peninsular India. The success, of course, did not come easy. Around 2020, he planted apple saplings brought from Himachal Pradesh. The experiment failed. He suffered losses of nearly 8 lakh rupees, in fact, after more than 3 years of effort. The turning point, though, came after a conversation with a friend working in Israel. He learned about a heat-resistant apple variety, especially developed for hot and arid regions. He imported the saplings and planted them in Anantapur's harsh climate. Listen to this.
Everyone was surprised and asked, are apples being grown in Anantapur? My orchard became a tourist spot. I sold only 1 ton and gave the rest away to everyone. This time the harvest was 4 tons.
And the results, of course, have surprised even experts and fellow farmers. The apples are reportedly comparable in color and taste to India's famous Shimla variety. India is the world's 5th largest apple producer, Jammu and Kashmir accounting for nearly 70% of domestic production. Himachal Pradesh contributes about 20%. Other hill areas make up the rest. But one farmer in the parched fields of Andhra Pradesh's Anantapur has now shown that innovation can rewrite even the rules of geography. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.